events across the 2.5 days and nights of learning and networking. As I speak, the awards jury are reviewing the 4,339 entries across 8 categories, and we look forward to celebrating the deserving winners at the awards on Wednesday evening. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors, partners and supporters for helping us to make Eurobest possible. In particular, thanks to the City of Hamburg, Draft FCB, IP Deutschland, Carlsberg, Chroma TV, Sapient Nitro and Vespa, who will be hosting the welcome drinks, which will be kicking off at 5:30. We begin now with an afternoon with Cannes Lions 2010. The Cannes Lions Festival is the world's only truly global meeting place for those working in creativity in communications. In its 57th year, Cannes Lions welcomed almost 8,000 delegates from 94 countries to the sunny south of France. Delegates viewed over 24,000 pieces of work, attended an extensive and unique programme of 55 seminars and workshops, honoured women's work at the 4 award ceremonies, and enjoyed 2 vast beach galas. This afternoon we are going to hear from 2 men who spent many hours in Cannes in dark rooms, judging the vast array of entries in film and press, and in the direct and sales promotion categories. They're going to talk you through their favourite pieces from this year's entries. So to kick us off, please welcome the Cannes Lions 2010 Film and Press Lions Jury Presidents, Chief Creative Officer of Burnett Worldwide, Mark Tutssel.
Interesting when you think of Cannes and you think what it represents to our industry right now. I don't think its value has ever been greater to our industry, more importantly to clients. Right now, I believe that creativity is really the primary asset of business. If you look at Cannes as really a melting pot of the finest minds in our industry, both from the finance side and from our side. You have the finest minds in the business in one place at one time for 1 week, and they focus relentlessly on ideas and the power of ideas to transform human behaviour. And right now, every single client is looking for best-in-class thinking. Everything begins and ends with powerful thinking. Without thinking, we will never get to great creativity. I believe, honestly, that creativity is the logical conclusion of brilliant thinking. And we need to really start with the thought that goes behind the communication that we embark on doing, regardless of the channel that we operate in. And everything begins with purpose. Not a proposition, not a rational reason to believe. Purpose. Why a brand exists in somebody's life. The part the brand plays in someone's life. What it means to somebody to connect with that brand. And brands have to give something in return now to people. Unless you're entertaining and engaging, you won't be listened to, watched or heard with that screen fees. Are you stimulating? Are you relevant? Are you useful? And above all, are you interesting? Without those things, people will never ever truly connect with the brand in any shape or form. So this year, really, it was a great honour to preside over arguably the 2 largest categories. And there's been a lot of talk about the death of print because of technology exploding around us with rapid velocity. But people have not lost the ability to read. I think we as an industry, over the last 5 or 6 years, have lost the ability to write. And it's interesting, actually, just looking at the gallery next door, at a timeless exhibition of a master at work. Thinking of the highest order, graphic design of the highest order, and brands that treat people with intelligence, with thought-provoking content. And I look at those ads, I read every single word of those ads next door, because they've struck the perfect balance between what they're trying to say and the connective tissue that they're creating between people and brands in that way. So we're going to start off with print, and you know, if we sort of go back to the beginning, there were something like 4,820 entries from around the world, and at the end of the day, we gave $10 out of those entries. So if you do your math, that's something like 0.2%. So 0.2% of what we do actually makes it to a gold mine in Cannes. So when you think about it, we're looking for work that not only is best in class, and it's a kind of barometer of the health of our industry in that calendar year, we're looking for work that's truly inspirational. Work that really helps us elevate our game to the next level. And Cannes has really become much more than an advertising show. Of course it's about winning awards, and of course it's about acknowledging pieces of work that represent best in class. But it's much, much more than that right now. It's a breeding ground for new thinking. It's an incubator for new ideas. It's future-facing in its format. And people who are fortunate enough to be there and to be, you know, somewhere like Eurobest, we're here to learn. We're here to learn, and we're here to be inspired. And I hope you leave the next 2 or 3 days inspired to try a little harder. And I think that's really the reward and the benefit of award shows, more so than just patting each other on the back for work that we believe is best in class. We're here to learn. We can always get better. And I think if you look at what's happened to print in the last 4, 5, 6 years, there's sort of been a migration to a formatted style. And we think that there's a style of ad that wins at Cannes. It's usually visual because of the language barriers, and it has to appeal to a wide cross-section of people. It's usually a visual pun, and it's usually a logo bottom right. And 1 out of every 100 are probably very nice. But that's not really what they're tasked with doing. Print advertising has to be, first and foremost, thought-provoking. And my brief to the jury was, let's look for work that really provokes thought, really interests you, and thirdly, grabs you by the eyeballs. When you think of the way we consume newspapers and magazines, you know, we scan very quickly. We make instant judgment calls, words and pictures working together. What catches our eye? What colour? What look? What feel? What word? You know, we have this amazing ability to just distill very, very quickly as we flick through magazines or we flick through newspapers. You know, and I think the starting point where we make the biggest mistake as communicators, we believe that we have some divine right to people's attention. And we don't. We have to reward people with thought-provoking content that engages them and gives them something in return for the time that they spend with communication. The best print always gets read. And it gets read for certain reasons. It leaps off the page. It's interesting. It catches your eye. It draws you in. It treats you with intelligence and then rewards you in a really smart, insightful way. But brands with the confidence to invite people into the communication were the brands that really excelled and shone at Cannes this year. And when you look at it en masse, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of entries. The day begins with these huge cardbooks, plastic folders, and people are just leafing through the pages, one by one, and looking for content that's just interesting. So immediately you're in a contest for someone's attention. No different from reading a magazine, or no different from reading a newspaper. People read newspapers for news. People read magazines for content. They don't read magazines and newspapers to look at the ads. So if the ads are going to intrude, you better be rewarding. Because if you're not rewarding, I think personally that's damaging. And if you look at a lot of the content out there, a lot of the work in the world today, it's almost insulting. It's screaming at you. It's talking at you. It's not giving you anything in return for the time that you spend with that communication. You're looking for those ads that really capture the essence of a brand and really deliver that purpose in a fresh new way. So I wanted to start off. I've chosen 2 print campaigns and 2 films to represent best in class, my personal favourites. There were many pieces of work that were inspiring and something that we all could learn from. But the first one was for Dixons. And the reason I like this campaign is it was first and foremost a return to intelligent writing. And the campaign idea itself was rooted in true understanding of human behaviour. I mean, this is a campaign written for a British public where Dixons is renowned for its price and the quality and the value that it creates in society. But here's a brand, rather than selling at you, talking about television sets and computers and hi-fi systems and trying to sell you on price and product name, it invited you into the communication in a really interesting way. And it was storytelling at its very, very best. What the jury loved about this, apart from its incredible design, you know, we talk about being visual, leaping off the page, capturing your attention in the most beautiful way. Design is everything, and that doesn't have to be a visual plan. You know, this is just block, colour and typography working together seamlessly in a really interesting way. But the thought of a brand inviting you to go elsewhere to purchase product and having the confidence to proclaim that, and then saying, once you've enjoyed this shopping spree, this piece of retail therapy, you'll be back to Dixons to purchase the said brand. That takes real courage, and the agency and the clients working in partnership to create this type of communication, I think is you know, it's a great testimony to their talent and their belief in the power of this to capture people's imagination. The writing is fluid, it's intelligent, it demands to be read, and once it's read, it's hugely rewarding. Again, not looking to a format, not looking for a design that just replicates itself. This is not about matching luggage. We're not looking for the same ad repeated 10 times. Each has its own character, each has its own colour palette, and each has a really interesting thought at the heart of it. This is my favourite because of just the area of London that's renowned for shopping, which is Harrods. You get off at Knightsbridge Station and you're literally confronted by, you know, the best shops that London have to offer. It's a great experience. Anybody going up to London to shop for the day, it's a great opportunity to do that. If you're in the business of a flat screen TV, it's probably the starting point to look at the very, very best. But then, of course, you return to Dixons and you purchase the said item. I love the fact that writing is back, and this was universal as well. It wasn't a sort of a British thing. That, you know, this was loved by every single member of the jury because it was intelligent. You know, you have a captive one-to-one audience. You have the ability to connect with people in a fresh way if you're of interest, and it bears repeat reading. And then again, beautiful writing, beautiful design, beautiful thoughts, beautifully put together, and I think it's print at its very, very best. The Grand Prix this year went to Billboard magazine, and this is the opposite side. This is pictorial, but again rooted in a really intelligent idea, not looking for a visual eye candy, looking for an idea that's true to the brand, true to the subject matter, true to the purpose of the brand, but then served up in the most visually arresting, thought-provoking way, inviting you again into the communication. Do you flick this? So again, you look at this, and it really is a beautiful piece of art, first and foremost. But when you actually get into the subject matter, and you actually look at what the image is made up of, and basically what Billboard magazine itself is made of, you start to get to really interesting content. In this case, Bob Dylan, David Bowie, Lou Reed, and Mother Teresa. So you look at this, and again, you're asked to step into the communication. It leaps off the page. Incredible in terms of its art direction, beautiful in terms of its balance, its colour palette, its detailing, and when you put the whole thing together, first and foremost, it's a great idea. The art directorial skill and the human interest that it creates as a subject, you end up, I think, with print at its very, very best. And this is timeless. This type of communication is very, very different and very, very fresh. And again, just the balance, the layout, the look, the feel, all adds up to something I think is quite charming and actually brilliant for the brand. And it works for different subjects, different artists, the influence behind these particular artists. But stunning. And the difference between the stuff that made it to medals and the stuff that made it to the shortlist, 9 times out of 10 was in design. God is in the details, and you're talking about print that represents the best of the best for our industry. And when you think of the volume of print that we produce as an industry globally right now, I mean, if we entered almost 5,000, I wouldn't even guess how many pieces of work we actually create as an industry in totality. But of those 5,000 pieces, 10 were inspirational. 10 we could learn something from. 10 act as a springboard to the next level. And 10 pieces really can help guide us, or certainly influence us as we all go back to our desks in our offices on the following Monday and charged with another similar brief to produce a print campaign for a client or a product or whatever it may be. So I think, if we look at this work, I think it's work that really gives you something in return. I think it's something that really has real value in people's lives, and something that's served up in a fresh, new way. And as I said at the beginning, the very, very best work gets read at the end of the day, because people don't buy magazines to read the ads, but the best ads do get read at the end of the day. And I think both of these represent something that I think is very, very strong and very, very good. And if you go through the gallery and you look at the portfolio of work that we chose as a jury, I mean, each piece had rhyme and reason, each piece had merit. And as a body of work, we were looking to curate a show that had different facets to it, different ways of approaching print advertising. It wasn't the same old, same old, same old. When you look at work and you can reference other ideas, it's always disappointing, because you're looking for stuff that really inspires us to try a little harder. I personally, going back many years ago when I produced a printer for Mercedes-Benz that had skid marks on the road, 50% of the people didn't understand it. And the 50% of the people who did understand it were highly rewarded. But the 50% of the people who understood it were probably the people we were trying to attract to buy a £50,000 car. And so, inviting people into the brand, inviting participation in the brand, applies to all communication channels. including print. People love words and pictures. We love smart ideas. We love ideas that are relevant to products. And we love ideas that really celebrate the genuine purpose of a brand. And then how we serve it up in the most visually arresting, thought-provoking way makes it an amazing opportunity for us each time that we have that opportunity to connect with people. So both of these, words and pictures, both of these are words that create a picture, pictures that ask you to access the thought behind it. So both are amazing pieces of work. The next two are the two films that I think represent something of real human interest, not advertising interest, not that's the best commercial, that's the best film in this category. These were two films that wove their way into popular culture, two films that really captured the imagination of a planet, and two films that really gave people something in return for the time that they spent with that particular communication. Moving pictures that ultimately move people. You have the ability to create an emotional bond and an emotional connection with people. So let's take a look at the first one. It's a long walk, but a very rewarding walk.
Here's a true story about a young man named John, just a local farm boy. There was something special about him. A glint in his eye, a fire in his belly, a swing in his step. And one day, he went for a walk. Now this walk began when his father died. The year was 1819, and he was just 14 years old. Bereavement counselling. Well, these were the days when young boys were sent into the fields. Mills, mines, tough times. A young John was smart enough to be lucky. His father's farm, where he was born and raised, was sold. The proceeds used to open the groceries. Big responsibility for the wee lad. His own shop in Kilmarnock, with his name on the door, John Walker. Hot Johnny, as the world knows. Back then, all grocers stocked the raid local single malts, but they could be a wee bit inconsistent. For John, that wasn't good enough. He began blending different malts together as a way of offering his customers a consistent, unique product. Now this backroom art quickly developed into a commercial proposition, and a very profitable one. And because there's nothing like a commercial proposition to stir the Scottish heart, it grew quickly into an industry filled with ambitious entrepreneur distillers. John thrived in this environment, and so too soon did his sons, Robert and Alexander, who joined him in his journey. The Walkers became the biggest name in a rapidly growing industry. They were unstoppable. In one bold bit of 19th century corporate raiding, they bought the famed distillery at Cardew, lock, stock and ensuring their supply of this silky single malt and guaranteeing, more importantly, that none of the other big blenders could get their hands on it. But young Alexander wasn't content with being Scotland's biggest blender, not ambitious enough for him. No. He convinced the ship's captains of Glasgow to act as agents for him and drove the whisky bearing his father's name across the globe. By 1860, he had developed the square bottle. Now, with a label at an angle of precisely 24 degrees. No big deal, you might think. Way the wrong. The square bottle meant less breakages and more bottles per ship. The diagonal label meant larger type. Together, that meant Johnny Walker had unmistakable presence in any shelf in the world. The bottle became an icon, and the rich liquid it contained sought after and consumed across the globe. What a character, Alexander Walker. Master of the blender's art, ambitious, uncompromising. It was John's grandson George and Alexander II's firm joined this journey. They led the brand into the 20th century. By 1909, they had developed the iconic Red Label and Black Label and persuaded Tom Brown, the best young illustrator of the day, to sketch a striding man in an apple during a business lunch. In the stroke of a pen, the Victorian grocer was transformed into an Edwardian den. By 1920, Johnny's walk had taken him through 120 countries, and he continued walking through the brand's advertising for the next 50 years, into the fabric of global culture, deep into the dark hearts of several wars, to the pleasure palaces of the aristocracy, immortalised by screen legends, celebrated by filmmakers, singers, songwriters, novelists, shoulder to shoulder with the great sportsmen of the age, winning countless international awards for quality, and even being awarded the Royal Warrant by King George V. No going back after that, not like going back, but even if I cut to join, or any of his firm. By the end of the 20th century, the familiar Red Label and Black Label were joined by the Green Label, the Gold Label, and the grandest of them all, Johnny Walker Blue Label. By the beginning of the 21st century, Johnny Walker wasn't just the world's biggest whiskey, but an international symbol of progress. The brand's keep walking mantra, adopted by pro-democracy protesters and parliamentary speechwriters. What would the farm-born Victorian grocer have thought of all of this? He'd have loved a Victorian farm-born grocer he might have been, but he and the family that followed him were possessed by a fiery ambition with skill and intelligence to match. 200 years later, and Johnny Walker's still walking, and he's not showing any signs of stopping.
I instructed the jury to look for films that stayed with us long after they finished. And that particular piece stood out for many reasons. A, it's an iconic brand. It's been around for a very long time. You know, it's incredibly well written, incredibly produced. When you think of a one-take commercial, a one-take film, 6 minutes long, with a renowned British actor, Robert Carlyle, with a really interesting and detailed narrative throughout, and he's hit every single mark en route. And again, it was just interesting. People loved it. People were engaged by it. People were rewarded by it. People remembered every single second of that 6 minutes. Because it was true to the brand also. Captured the purpose of the brand in a really smart new way. And storytelling really does sit at the heart of, I believe, the best films. The brands with the best stories win. The brands with the best narrative always win. And this is a story about a whiskey that's much more than just the water of life, the whiskey, the substance itself. It's about an attitude to life, about that progressive spirit that resides within the drink itself, and the progressive spirit that resides in human beings around the world, captured beautifully by the line "Keep Walking," and then symbolized in the most iconic way with the walking man. And when you start looking at this as a brand and trace the origin of this idea to present day, it's been a long journey, but it's been an incredible journey of really smart, really intelligent, really beautiful communication, and it's grown the brand to record highs. When an agency can persuade the client to change every single piece of packaging around the world, to swap the walking man around so he walks forward, which they did at the beginning of this campaign, that in itself shows the power of the idea in the most beautiful way. And when you can create film content that has the ability to live on any screen and weave its way into people's lives in an interesting way, then you know you've got something magical. So when you sit there, and we were looking at, in this case, I think something like just over 3,000 commercials. So imagine this, sitting there in a black room, watching one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. Creed certainly does rise. Interesting film certainly stands out. Intelligent, thought-provoking work captures your imagination. And I think the best film work will always do that. Because again, we're sitting there and you're asking people to connect with brands through moving pictures. So unless you move people, you will never truly connect with them. So you're looking for filmmaking that really of the highest order. And I think this is really an amazing piece of filmmaking. I think it's an incredible brand story, and I think served up in a way that no one's seen before. And we're always looking for ways of telling stories in fresh, new ways. But at the heart of it is a very clear, concise purpose of the brand. The filmmaking, the cinematography, the direction, the acting, the editing, the music, the pace, everything about it is fluid and beautiful and perfect. And the films that stood out at the end of the day were three. From a very, very strong body of work, in the end I think gave 14 goals, and each of those goals, be it campaign or single pieces of film, had their own merits and were worthy of a prestigious gold line in Cannes. But three pieces stood out: Old Spice, Replay for Gatorade, and Johnny Walker, The Man Who Walked Around the World. And both of those, all three of those, told stories in different ways. All three were true to who they were as a brand. All three used film in a really fresh new way. And all three gave you such huge reward. And I think the best films bear repeated viewing. You want to see them again and again and again and again. No different from movies. How many times have you seen a movie, your favourite movie? Each time you watch it, you see something different. And I think each time you watch this particular piece, you see something different and you see something magical, and you marvel at the execution. But also, you marvel at the idea itself. And when you add all of that together, and put it together as a piece of work, it really is filmmaking, moving pictures of the highest order. And I think, given that we're living in such a screen age now, where films can find their way onto any screen, any place, anywhere, any time. People are looking for content now that's interesting. And films are not competing against the category. This is not the alcoholic category competing against other whiskey brands out there, other beers, other cocktails. This is a brand that's competing with popular culture. Everybody's out. You're out there every single day looking for content that's rewarding. So people now have the ability, by touching a button, to access any content that they want, be it made by themselves or content that they want to bring into their life to reward them in some shape or form. So now the stakes have really risen to a giddy height. So filmmaking now has to be, by definition, as interesting as content that people can find in popular culture. And I think this has become part of popular culture, talked about the world over. And then you add that into the actual one take. And it seems to be a theme this year, which is the one take commercials. The next campaign I'm about to show you is shot in one take. And also in terms of titles, The Man Who Walked Around the World and The Man Your Man Can Smell Like. So it seemed to be a male theme this year in terms of content. But the work that really did stand out and reward people was evidenced on Saturday evening. We were fortunate enough to have a packed house at the Palais de Festival in south of France, and the reaction from the crowd was amazing. People genuinely loved this work. I mean, the roar that went up when this was presented on the evening was fantastic. Because then you've done your job right. It's a very subjective business. It's not an exact science. There's no right or wrong answer. You may totally disagree with what I'm saying. That's fine. Or you may agree 100%. But you have to produce something, at least first and foremost, that's interesting. People want to talk about. And all of the work that we chose, people talked about at great length. So, with technology unleashing so much potential now for films to live anywhere, I think you have this ability now to really change the game. And the Grand Prix this year really was a classic commercial that was updated for an online world. It resurrected a dead brand. You know, a brand that had completely run out of road, that kept serving up tried and tested formulas, tried to advertise at you, never rewarded you, never connected with you, and it really was on death's door. And that's a great opportunity to be brave, to be bold, to take risks, to defy the status quo, and do something that's genuinely, really different. And I think this final film was different, but it was right for the brand. It wove its way into popular culture, it circumnavigated the world, its phrases became part of the vernacular, it made the actor famous, the brand appeared everywhere, and more importantly, the impact on human behaviour, the impact in society, the impact for the brand in people's lives just went through the roof. So this is about the power of communication, the power of ideas and creativity transforming behaviour on a scale that we've never seen before. And so that was sort of the backstory, but first and foremost we were there to decide whether this represented the best film of the calendar year. Did this film basically, would this film ignite people's imagination within our industry? Would this film ignite clients' imagination and drive them to be bolder, ask them to step outside of the norm and actually create content that's really of human interest, and bring all of the skill sets together in a fresh way? Again, at the heart of this was incredible storytelling. At the heart of this, again, was a one-take commercial, and every single second is highly enjoyable. Every single second ladders up to huge human reward, and every single second serves the brand in a fresh new way and differentiates the brand in a way that we've never seen before. And Cannes, at the end of the day, is about possibility, is about what's next. We have to look for work that really defies the status quo and work that really inspires us to try harder. And I think this, personally, made me completely green with envy. I saw this and I had a sick feeling in my stomach, not jealousy, but just, wow, where did this come from? Where did this idea originate? How did they get to this? Where did it come from, etc., etc.? And the magic, the power of imagination to create populism, the power of imagination to bring an idea to life in a new way, I think is demonstrated in this film.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're in a boat. With the man, your man could smell it. What's in your hand? Back at me. I am. It's an oyster. 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamonds. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I want a voice.
It's genius, and I think it's timeless every time, and you've all seen it 1,000 times, and still you're rewarded by it. And more importantly, the people outside of this room, in the real world, popular culture, love this, share this, create their own version of this. It's, as I say, it's spreading around the world like wildfire. It's ingrained in society, and more importantly, it's breathed new life into a dead brand. And I take my hat off to Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble gone to Cannes over the last 5 or 6 years. First and foremost, to be inspired, to be educated, to learn from the industry we operate in, to look for work that really is best in class, and then to challenging themselves to raise the bar, to produce content that's of great interest to people. And I think this is testimony to their ambition. I think it absolutely shows the brilliance of Wyden Kennedy Portland at its very, very best. And I think it's exciting. It's exciting for people. And it's interesting, you know, the Burnetts a few years ago were involved in a film called John West Fair, and we produced this film. It was £100,000, and it appeared, you know, a couple of times in the UK in small regional areas. And then the next breath, it's circumnavigating the world, and it became sort of almost the godfather of the viral effect. And when I went to America 10 years ago, it was the 100 best commercials in the States. And so, you know, Judy found to sit and wade through this stuff to see, you know, what's the best of the best, or certainly what do people think is the best filmmaking out there right now. So 2 hours later, the work slowly got better and better and better and better, until finally they said, now, the #1 TV commercial in North America, the #1 film that America loves the best, etc., etc., the #1 commercial is John West Fair. John West Fair never appeared in America. Sales of John West went up 70% in Australia. It never appeared in Australia. You know, and it's still, you know, circumnavigating the world now in a fresh, new way, because each time people come into contact with it, they're rewarded by it. So it just demonstrated, you know, the power of an idea once it's owned by people. Once people own the idea, and the sending and the sharing is as rewarding as the actual content itself, then you know you've got something amazing. And both The Man Who Walked Around the World and the Old Spice film captured the imagination of the planet. So when a film, a 30-second film, or a 6-minute film can do that, has the power to really reward people, you know you have something incredibly special. And then, you know, the difference between the two that I've chosen was just the marked impact it had on business. Both were iconic brands, both are timeless pieces of communication. And I think if you look back 10 years from now, I think we'll still cite these two films as a learning curve. You know, what did they do so differently in such a fresh new way that just changed the game again? You know, as we're saying, TV advertising, film, TV commercials are dying. They're not dying. They'll only die if they're boring. They'll only die if they're only interesting. If they're fresh and of interest, they'll find their way onto any screen. They'll find their way in life. They'll find their way in popular culture. Once people own brands, then they will create great things for brands. And at the end of the day, advertising agencies and clients don't create iconic brands. People do. And both of these commercials, both of these films are owned by people. And when you give people something in return for their airtime, for the time they spend in communication, and you reward them, then you have something very, very special. So, you know, it was a great experience, and obviously it's very difficult just to you know, give you a snapshot in 25, 30 minutes. But storytelling is everything. The purpose of a brand, the meaning of a brand, why a brand exists, not what a brand does, why it exists in people's lives, acts as a compass for that brand, and then to bring it to life in the most imaginative way. And populism is created as a result of that if you create content that's as interesting as any other content out there. And this is a brilliant example of moving pictures that genuinely did move people. It moved the jury, it moved the audience of the evening, and more importantly, I think it's moved popular culture around the world right now. So Cannes represents the very, very best of what we do. I think being here at Eurobest is equally as stimulating and as rewarding, because we're looking at arguably one of the most fertile creative communities on the planet. The level of creativity and the level of talent that resides in this region of the world is second to none. And I'm really looking forward to the next few days to see the work, and certainly see the films and the print work that's risen to the top, because it's the standard. And it's not the awarded for best in class, best in category. It's hopefully work that we leave here inspired by, work that gives us something in return for the time we spend with it, and more importantly, acts as a springboard to go a little higher, try a little harder, be a bit bolder, be a bit riskier, and really just push the boundaries of the world that we're operating in right now. And as you all know, this is the most exciting time ever. There is no excuse not to have fun now. There's no excuse not to produce brilliant work. And we have the opportunity to connect to people in a way that we've never ever imagined before. But connecting with people is very difficult. And that always requires a brilliant idea. At the end of the day, we're an ideas industry, always have been, always will be. Ideas are the currency of life. Creativity is the most important thing, I think, to society today. Unless you're creative, unless you're interesting, you won't connect to people. People demand it, they expect it of brands, and brands can no longer advertise at people. And both these, all four pieces of work are thought-provoking, intelligent, rewarding, and more importantly rooted in who the brand is. Each of the brands, be it Johnny Walker, be it Old Spice, or be it Dixon's, or be it Billboard, each has a personality, each has a point of view, each knows why it exists in people's lives, and all brands give something back to the people. And those are really the hallmarks of exceptional work. But as I said earlier on, it's very subjective, but the jury, I think, did a very, very thorough job. The debate was really, really smart, very, very good. And everybody got listened to. At the end of the day, the thing that got listened to the most was the work. Because great work speaks volumes for itself and doesn't need anybody arguing its case. Great work basically stands alone and puts its hand up and is counted. And I think these are four pieces of work that really were counted and the best of the best in 2010. So anyway, thank you for spending some time with me, and hope you enjoy the drinks now at 5:30 on the next speaker, but it was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.